From other videos, you'll know how much I love the writings of Jane Austen. There's another author, a contemporary of Jane's, Elizabeth Gaskell, sort of kind of Jane Austen with a social conscience. She was also writing in the mid-1800s about day-to-day life in England. And one of her books that I really enjoy is called Wives and Daughters, and I enjoy it because it's got a great antibiotic story in it. And in Wives and Daughters, we have lots of social this and that and the other, but through it all, we're following a young man and a young woman who, by the end of the movie, they wind up confessing their love to each other while standing 10 feet apart in the rain.
I mustn't come any closer. I promised your father.
Yes or no?
Why are they standing 10 feet apart? Well,
Scarlet fever. Molly will have to leave the hose at once. She hasn't had it, you see.
The only thing they knew to do for scarlet fever was to practice what we practice with COVID, which is social distancing.
We must stop up all intercourse with a hole for the time. If there's one illness I dread, it's this.
So what is scarlet fever? Scarlet fever is a bacterial infection, and you will know it as strep throat. So when you have the thing called strep throat, you have the sore throat, the fever, and they swab the back of the throat. They say, oh, you have strep throat. You need to take a course of antibiotics. What's going on here? Well, this organism that lives here, Strep pyogenes, when it causes the strep throat, it can then set off a series of secondary immune reactions. And it makes a toxin that actually gives you the rash, that gives you a red rash, the scarlet fever, the red rash. But the more feared aspect of strep throat / scarlet fever is that after the infection, some weeks or months later, you can have sort of the immune system gone awry. The bacteria has set off an immune response that can lead to your body attacking its own joints or attacking the heart. So you can get heart injury, you get arthritis from it. By treating the infection right at the start, actually you prevent all that downstream stuff. Well, in the 1800s, they didn't have the antibiotics. All they knew how to do was don't catch the bacteria. What we do these days is we diagnose strep throat and you take a course of antibiotics for it and you wipe it out. So I think it should be obvious that antibiotics would have made a big difference in this story. I think they still would have fallen in love and found each other at the end. They don't think the scarlet fever outbreak would have prevented that. But we would have had a different kind of an ending. We would have embraced in the rain instead of standing 10 feet apart in the rain, chatting with each other. So check it out. It's an interesting story about the way that infections changed people's lives on a regular basis. They were terrified of this infection. And the kinds of management tools that we're using today were what all they had back then, whereas today we have good antibiotics.